And we're back.
Oh yeah, another episode of the Road to Code.
Yes.
Still episode 10, part
Still
5.
episode 10. We're on part 5. It's a long running series on this one, but I think it's well worth it. This would have been a 4-hour episode, but instead we decided to break it down into small pieces. And yeah, I mean, I think we've been making some pretty good headway on this one, and it's totally worth watching all 4 in a series. Actually 5 now. This is part 5 of episode 10. So yeah, so it's been going. This is the 5th hour of episode 10. And it's not that we've been recording 5 hours straight. It's just that we've broken it up into 5 different pieces because it's basically the same topic that we're covering. But we've broken it up into some proper structure. And so where did we leave off at last time? We left off with the data portion, right? We separated, we had a monolithic application that everything was inside the console program. It was this big old ugly console, mess of code that you thought it was a piece of art.
It was at first. I noticed we can keep it simple.
Until you saw how simple it should have been, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. And so now what we're going to do is if we break it up into layers, I think I have a diagram. Let me see if I can bring it up. And so this is where we want to go, but we actually started with this here, which was the console application. And within the console application, we had all these methods, and these methods went and called the data, and it brought the data, and you were just so excited we're connecting to the database, which is an exciting moment. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like, when I first did that, I was like, yeah, I'm accessing data, and it's definitely a milestone that needs to be celebrated because you're actually connecting across services within your machine. And potentially, I mean, your database can exist anywhere. It can exist on Amazon's AWS. It can exist on Microsoft's Azure Cloud, SQL Cloud. It can be a SQL server at my home, and you connect via VPN, and that same code. All we need to do is just change that connection string, and it's going to connect. It's going to do the exact same thing that you're doing it now. So it's kind of cool that you're reaching outside your application. So it's definitely a milestone to celebrate. But really where we want to be is we want to be layered. And we'll analyze your code. There's a tool in Visual Studio that I'll show you where it analyzes the complexity of your code. And I forget exactly what it's called. Let me see if I can let's see. I was doing some research on some Azure training. But there's a way to check the complexity of your code, and we'll look at that in a moment. But for every if statement, the complexity increases by 1. Every time you have a decision in your code, the complexity increases. And so, and it increases exponentially. So if you have, like, say, a switch statement, it just throws the complexity above and beyond what it should be. Mm-hmm. And so you have to start breaking them down and whatnot. And so this actually simplifies the code so that the complexity of the code isn't beyond the mental or the human mind. Because again, the human mind can only read what's on the screen. And once you have to scroll up and down beyond the screen, like the mind just can't comprehend it all that well. It's like it's like working a long math problem. And at that point, you're just going to have to keep stuff in your head as you're reading ahead in the code. And it's just, it doesn't work well for the mind, essentially. So when you break it up into smaller pieces, you keep your methods nice and small. I like to call them bite-sized chunks. It essentially helps the user or the developer who's maintaining a code make it easier for them to maintain it. Even if you come back 6 months later and you look at your own code, you're going to sit there and scratch your head. And it's like, what the heck was I doing? And so keeping the methods nice and small, keeping them descriptive, it helps you as a maintainer of your code 6 months later with what it is that you're doing with that. So let me stop sharing and we'll have you share and we'll continue on with our goal of continuing to break up that code into pieces.
All right.
So in the repository project, let's actually, you know what? Just rename that class 1.
This one?
Yep, right click and rename it. We're going to call this birthday repository. Yep. And go ahead and modify that thing. And so this birthday repository, it's going to have a private member. So we'll go ahead and put private right in between the 2 brackets. Go ahead and type in private. And this private member is going to be the birth date response. I'm sorry, birth date. Oh, it's just birth dates. It's going to be the birth dates class.
Okay.
Birthday.
Birthday.
And cover over that and let's see how we can fix this thing. And so what we want to do is we want to pick that 3rd option, which is birthdays add reference over on your right.
Add reference?
On the right.
Oh.
I'm sorry, the left. It's okay. The other right. Birthdays add reference. Go ahead and click on that. And we didn't have a whole lot of luck last time, and I don't expect it to work this time. But I always like to give Visual Studio an opportunity to redeem itself from the last time it didn't work. I hope someone from Microsoft sees this and fix this problem, please. I mean, it would make life a lot easier for us.
I'll cancel it.
Or if anybody knows someone at, developer at Microsoft, let them know that this feature is broken. It's just not working for us. Go ahead, give it another shot. I know it's not going to work. But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to right click on the significant repository project. Go ahead and cancel this. It's not going to work. And we're going to add a project reference. So add project reference. And we're going to make it to the data, significant data. And hit OK. And then go ahead and hover over that and we'll see what the fix is now that it has a reference to the project. Yep, down at the 3rd option to the left. So we need to bring in the namespace. Excellent. And what we could do is, since it's private, there's two school of thoughts on here. For private methods or for private members, you would normally call it the same name as the class, except you would put an underscore before it. And instead of making it a capital B, you would just leave it as a lowercase b. So after birth dates, underscore lowercase birth dates. And then just finish it off with the semicolon. And then there's 2 ways to take care of this. One of them, I would rather we do it through dependency injection, but I don't want to get into dependency injection just yet. There is some benefit to doing that with dependency injection, but I want to wait. So for now, what we'll do is go ahead and press enter twice. And then type in CTOR, C-T-O-R, and then tap twice. And this is going to generate a method called a constructor. This is a special method. It's not your typical method. This constructor is a method that comes with every single class. Whether you have this method in your class or not, you get this method for free, no charge. Like it just comes with it, okay? It's almost like your car comes with a steering wheel, a gas pedal, and a brake pedal. No charge, because that's like required by law, you know? And so this is the same thing. Constructors come with every class that you build, but unless you do something with it, it's kind of just hidden in the background, you know, you don't see it until you actually bring it up, and then you can do something. What this method does, it just basically builds your blueprint and sticks it into memory and returns a reference to your variable. In here, what we're going to do is we're going to say underscore birthdates equals new birthdates. So we're going to call the constructor on birthdates to give us a new one, put that into memory, and give us a reference.
All capital.
So new is lowercase new and then space birthdates, because you're calling the constructor.
Oh. There we go.
And then you need to open close parenthesis. And your semicolon. So essentially what we're doing is we're calling the constructor in the birth dates object in the significant data project. And we're saying, hey, go load this in memory and then give me a reference to it. And you're referencing it based on that private member. So we call them private members, but it's very, I mean, you can pretty much say it's a variable within that class. And the scope of that variable is while that class is in memory. So you can access it as long as that class has been built.
Okay.
You with me on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So now what we want to do is, if you see over on the right, under significant data, can you expand birth dates? And then expand that again. So we need those same, everything except the mapper.
Okay.
We need those exact same signature methods starting at line 9. So those are going to be methods that we're going to be creating. Give me another blank line there. So let's create the delete. So this is going to be public void. So you can see your delete, right? It has a void on the.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to be public void delete, and you can see the parameter signature, or the parameter that's requiring in the delete is an integer. And you could just call it an ID. You need a name for that parameter. So it's going to be int, and it's going to be type ID.
Okay.
I'm sorry, just ID. It's going to be an int type, and the name of that parameter is ID. And then open close curly braces. Excellent. And so in here, you would just say underscore birthdays dot delete. And open close parenthesis and semicolon. Actually, you need to pass in that ID, sorry. Yeah. And so for parameters, we're actually going to be using the camel case. So both I and the D are lowercase. So you can right click on the ID on the first one on line 10, right click and rename it. Oh, too late. You already changed it. So go ahead and put that lowercase. Yep. Now, this may look as a pass-through method. It's like, hey, we're just passing the ID to a member. But in reality, when we're using dependency injection and properly, and we're making we're doing more than just basic CRUD. Remember what CRUD stands for?
Yeah. Create, update, delete.
And then what's the R stand for?
Um,
For read.
read. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, basic, what we call basic CRUD. So in this particular case, having the repository class may not make a whole lot of sense, but when you have a repository class that's using more than one data object to go and grab all this information, massage it, and then create some kind of response that's made up of different information and send it back, then a repository makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to go through the exercise of like, hey, we're going to create the repository, we're going to create the data, and then we're going to use these in such a way that, we'll be able to segregate the information, or spread the data across classes. Let me share for a moment what I'm talking about. Go ahead and stop sharing for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And let me share my screen. What do you see on my screen? Oh, I don't think that's what I want to share. I want to share. What do you see on my screen?
It is articles repository, a
Excellent.
conduit API.
This is it. So these are all public methods that are being called by an article controller. The article controller is equivalent to what your console application is, okay? So here we have this get articles async, and we have a try catch, which is basically just handling exceptional behavior. This is the happy path right here, these two lines of code.
Mm-hmm.
But this get articles is coming from a repository. You can see iArticles repository. So if I right click on this and I go to the implementation, we're going to expand on this method. And so this method, you can see where it says, we're going to go get articles by tags, by authors, by favorite. So there's already some logic in there that is breaking up like the parameters that are being received, right? These parameters here are being received. And so based on the value of each one of those parameters, it's going to do something different. So if we go and look at get articles by tag, and I go to that definition, I can see that I'm using something equivalent to your data, but I'm using entity framework. And in here, I'm grabbing editorials where the tag is displaying the tag that was sent in as a search parameter. And then I also need to include favorites, person, and tags, which come from different tables. Right now, we have one birthday table. We don't have anything else in there. But here we have 3 tables that are going to tag along with editorials. And then we set an order. We set order this, and then we'll say, go ahead and skip so many records and grab whatever that limit says. It could be 5, it could be 10, it could be 20, and then give us a list. And so we go back and we get that list to this variable. Then we go and map the editorials to articles so that now we create a list of articles. And then finally, we go and return an array. So there's a little bit more complexity where we're doing this, right? But if you see here, go to definition again. And if we go to the context, this context, you'll see that there's not a whole lot in here. I mean, this method doesn't even count because this is creating our tables in the database. And once they're created, that's it. This is the code. So this would be equivalent to your data code, except that we are actually making connections where this DB context takes care of all that for us. You know, we don't have to worry about it. But you can see where we've taken away all the data and we've separated into the repository, like all the business logic of how the data should come together from different tables to formulate one response, which goes back so that it can be displayed, or, you know, we're giving it back to the calling client, whether it be a console application, whether it be a web browser, you know, whatever the case is, we're giving back that response object so that it can do something with it. Okay. And so that's what the repository is there for. So in this particular case, go to share your screen. Again, it looks like a regular just, hey, that we're just passing through. It's like, yeah, we're passing through because we have one table. And in this particular case, it's an overkill. I'm not gonna lie. It's like, it's a little bit of an overkill. But it's still the type of design that you want to get used to. Think of it this way. You can have a set of blueprints to build a doghouse, or you could just wing it. Like, let's just get some boards and some wood and we'll start cutting and we'll see what we come up with, right? This is an actual architectural pattern that is used in the industry. And following this pattern just kind of organizes your code in such a way that you'll be able to follow along with that same pattern. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Cool. So that's essentially what we're going to do. And we're going to build a method in this repository for every one of the methods inside the birthday data class. Okay. You're done with delete. So now you got to create a new one. And then go ahead and hover over that and see how we can fix it. You know, it probably sounds like I poured myself a shot of vodka there, but it's not. It's just fresh water, people. Yeah, hover over the birthdays and then show potential fixes. And we're going to be using that namespace right there, models request. And then go ahead and open close parenthesis. And then pass in the REQ variable. And then give me an extra line between 19 and 20. Yeah, between 20 and 21 now. Yeah. If you keep on pushing it, okay, now it's 22 and 23. The next one is create, right? So now we got to type it in correctly. You know, we still gotta worry about typing it in correctly. But now what we've done is we're taking a string value and we're saying, hey, date time, can you go ahead and parse this and create a date out of it and then pass it over to my DOB? And we're going to do the same thing with DOD. And then notoriety should work out of the box. Okay, now, here is where things get interesting. Let's go to the very top of this program. And line 11, let's replace that whole line with birth date repository. It's going to be a static birth date repository. Oops.
Oh no.
Control Z, Control Z. Private or static, a private static birthday repository. Status.
Hey,
Darn computer, you should know what I want. Static. There you go. Birth date repository. And then the name, oh, you're gonna have to bring in that namespace. So hover over it. You see at the bottom, it wants you to bring in, don't do that. It doesn't work. Just go in and add the project reference. I've given up on that feature. There you go. All right, hover over that thing and let's fix the namespace. Whoa, wait. Go back. Oh, you know what? Click away. Give it like 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now hover over it again.
takes a minute.
Maybe save everything. Control Shift S. All right, now try it again. Dang it. Okay, go and try to add the reference again. Maybe you thought you were kidding. You're like, no, you don't really want to reference that. Oh, it wasn't even there. All right, hover over that. What the heck? Try it again. Try adding the reference again.
Oh,
It's there. Hit OK. Go ahead and hover over that. All right, try to rebuild the whole solution. The whole solution.
the whole solution.
Yeah, right click on the solution, then rebuild it. Oh. We need to go ahead and Control Z till that connection string comes back. We're not ready to get rid of that. So what's happening is that because it can't compile the application, it can't add the reference that you're trying to add. It just says like, hey, I can't even compile. So we'll get rid of that at the end. Let's go ahead and create a new line after line 11. And then do a static birth date repository. Well, that's display record. Let's go to the top. Let's go see what else we got. Let's knock them down one at a time.
Let's see. Create.
Update record. Is that all we got? Are we done?
That's it.
Let's scroll through this code. I want to make sure. Did we get rid of all the SQL code? That seems too easy.
Here's the update, create, display.
Oh, what is this? List birthdays. Oh, we got to do the get all.
Get all.
So here, oh, pretty simple. Let's Control Shift S and let's run it, see what we get. See if it works. So we have, let's go ahead and display the record. So press R. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Let's go and let's create a record.
Who are we adding today?
Sheldon Cooper. How many people know about Sheldon Cooper? You get brownie points if you put who is Sheldon Cooper down in the comments.
Do you know his birthday?
Oh man, that's a good question. Let's see.
1984. I'm gonna guess.
All right, that sounds. It's actually February 26, 1980.
Oh. Still living.
It just press enter. Oh, it crashed on us.
Create.
So, can you hover over REQ.DOD? We have to make that a nullable type.
Got it.
So go ahead and stop this program.
How do I stop it?
The little red box up
Oh, yeah.
at top center. So let's on line 80, right click on birthday request and go to definition. And we just need to add a question mark right after date time on line 11.
There we go.
Let's run it again. Let's see if that works. I'm not sure that that's going to work, but let's give it a shot. We may have to do a little bit more fancy programming in that case. Go ahead and create a record.
What was it? 27?
26.
Ah.
It still doesn't like that. So string is not recognized as valid date time. Okay, so what we have, so date time parse, you use that when you're absolutely sure that you have a string that really does represent a date. But in this case, that's not going to work. So what we need to do, so let's go ahead and begin a new line after line 85. Go ahead and press enter. Let's do a new one. And go ahead and put an if statement. So if, and then press tab. So datetime parse is used when it's like there's just no possibility that you're going to get anything else but a date out of the string that you're sending in. If it's a possibility that it might fail, then you need to use try parse. And try parse says, I will take anything. I will try to parse it. And if I can't, I'm going to return a false. So that satisfies the if statement. So if it's true, it'll go into line 88 and it'll perform that line. If it's false, it'll skip and it'll go directly to line 90. So you have nothing. And the fact that you have an out var DOD, you're saying, hey, look, I'm going to go ahead and just initiate, or I'm going to not initiate, but I'm going to create a new variable called DOD. And the try parse, you already know what this is. This is going to come back as a date to me. And when you return me a true saying, yes, I was able to parse it, you're going to assign that date to DOD. And then we just go ahead and assign it to the req.dod.
Got it. Okay.
So we do some fancy programming. So where else do we have the DOD that we're going to need to put it on line 72. So just go ahead and copy 86 through 89. Just copy that whole thing and replace 72 with it. Where else do we have DOD? We need to go and wherever we're reading DOD. I think those are the only two places, huh?
Yeah.
Let's run it. Let's take that car back up the field before before we the brakes don't fail anymore.
Yeah.
The Big Bang Theory. Oh, we gave the answer away. The Ori. There it is.
Yeah.
Let's update Sheldon Cooper because you put the 16. It's supposed to be the 26.
Oh.
You know what would be cool? If you didn't have to retype everything again.
That would be cool.
Go ahead and kill this. Let's fix that. Update record. So if we don't have a date, it means you're just leaving it blank. If it's true, we'll replace it. Else, on line 77, type in else tab at the very end of it. Else tab. req.dob equals res.dob. And RESPECT.
Learn out.
So here's the thing about, well, I guess we can do the same thing with DOD. You can just put an else statement and do the same thing. And the same thing with notoriety. You can do an if statement after line 92. We're going to do the string dot is null or white space. And then inside a parenthesis, req.notoriety. Press enter. And you could say req.notoriety equals res.notoriety. So yeah, if it's empty, we'll reassign it. If it's not, that means you can never leave it empty.
Mm-hmm.
So let's give it a run. Let's see what happens. Let's go modify Sheldon Cooper and fix his birthday to the 26th. That's really the only field you'll need to modify.
Update 12.
Press enter.
Date of birth.
Enter.
That's what we need to change.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. 1980, 226.
Oh. There we go.
And then go ahead and display.
Yeah.
Nice. But you'll notice that we forgot to display, if you go ahead and close this. We forgot to display, you see how we're giving them the information on 67? We didn't do it on 73. Oh, we did do it on 70. We didn't do it on 82. We got to do the same thing on 82.
Date of death.
You're going to have to put the $sign in the beginning.
Oh.
And then same thing with notoriety. All right, let's try it again, see what it does.
Oops.
All right, so let's update his record again. And then just press enter. I want to see the names or the values come up. Okay, cool, cool. Go and press enter and then display it again. See, make sure it worked. Nice. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
So this was back in the 80s. This is how you programmed. Welcome to the 80s.
Yeah.
90s kid. Taking you way back in time. All right. I think we could wrap up episode 10, man. This is it.
In the books already.
It's in the books. Five parts later. Shant is gonna figure out how to make this into an hour each. Are you gonna release them all at once, or are you gonna release them?
No, I think I don't know, because I like how ahead we are in the episodes.
Okay.
I might do maybe 2 a week and see how that goes. Like 2 episodes or 2 parts in a week.
All right. I mean, you can separate them. You can still release them once a week. I mean, it's not like we have this huge crowd base yet. Very cool. I like the way this turned out. I think our next episode, which is whatever the next episode is going to be, is going to be working with API. So we're going to turn this console application into an API that hopefully, with the basics of React that you already know, you'll be able to access your API locally on your machine. And you will be able to do the same thing that we just did, except do it on a web browser.
All right.
So very cool. I like the way it's turning out. All right. I think this wraps it up.
Yeah.
Any final words?
Episode 10. Done.